more inflation. We've got Quentin Hardy of Forbes magazine, Kudlow and Company contributor Jerry Bowyer, CNBC contributor Jared Bernstein, Dan Clifton of Strategic Research Partners, Steve Moore of the Wall Street Journal, former Clinton White House aide Keith Boykin. Let me get some. I want to turn to my very great friend Bob Schrum about this difficult news on Senator Kennedy, which is also a very, very important story this evening, and as it was all day. But let me just ask Keith Boykin, how do you read these election returns, these expected election returns? Keith Boykin.
I don't think there's a big surprise in Hillary's victory in Kentucky tonight. I do think that Barack will do well in Oregon. And I think Kentucky really doesn't matter at this point because the math is already set against Hillary Clinton. Barack Obama will claim probably tonight a majority of the pledged delegates, and he's well on his way to winning the nomination.
Steve Moore, Senator Clinton today said she's not leaving the race. She's not quitting the race. She's going to hang in there. She'll probably win big in Kentucky, I guess. That's the expectation. Mr. Obama will take Oregon. All these latte-sipping, tree-hugging liberals out there, it'll divide up pretty well, as it always does. But what is Hillary's position in your judgment, Steve?
I think she's waiting for one more slip-up from Barack Obama. I've said it consistently over the last couple of weeks, Larry. I think the Democratic Party is making a big mistake here. I'm no big fan of Hillary Clinton's by any means, but I've come to the conclusion that she would be a much tougher general election candidate. And we're seeing that, Larry, in Kentucky. That is one of those border states, the battleground states, the Reagan Democrat states. Democrats need those voters. Republican voters, they're the ones who determine the outcome of general election. And Hillary does much better with them than does Barack Obama. It was proven again tonight.
All right. Let me just get a quick take from some of our stock market and investment gurus. Jerry Bowyer, what's this election mean for stocks, if anything?
Well, the CPI, the Clinton Popularity Index, continues to soar, and that's a bullish sign. And her saying that she's in it to the end, that's a very bullish sign. I mean, Barack Obama will win the nomination in the end, but he will come in having ignored the votes of Michigan and Florida. It'll be a 48-state primary that he wins. The party that counted every hanging Chad and every dimpled Chad is going to throw out two whole states, and it's going to be pretty hard to make the case to America that this guy really won and should be president.
All right, Quentin Hardy, you heard what Jerry Bowyer says. Hillary Clinton winning, staying in the race is bullish for stocks. Obama's got some serious holes in his resume. What's your take, Quentin?
Well, I guess the assumption there is that if Hillary doesn't make it but seems stronger and Obama is weaker, Republican gets elected, and that's really great for the stock market like it's been for the past 8 years? No. Anyway, look at this. You know, this is about risk management on Hillary Clinton's part. The longer she goes, the more likely is she to get the money back she's invested in this. And the longer she goes, the more she's portrayed as a fighter. Everybody likes that. She's a fighter. And she's positioned in a couple of ways. If McCain actually does win in November, she's up for 2012. If McCain fails and Obama stumbles, she can do a challenger. She's positioning for the future on the money she owes and on what she looks like the next go-around.
All right, thank you for that. Let me bring in my great friend, Bob Schrum. Bob, bad news today, of course, and we all wish Senator Kennedy well, cancerous brain tumor. Bob, you're a close personal friend. You're also an advisor. What are you thinking? What are you feeling when you get this news?
Well, on Saturday morning when I first heard about the seizure or strokes, as people thought it was at the beginning, I was terrified. Then I felt a little better because he seemed alert. He was eating legal seafood. He was with his family. And obviously, this is a very tough day. Now, he's sitting in that hospital room with his family. He's been there all day. They're telling stories. They're going to make decisions about his treatment. But what I think about him is, aside from the fact that he's a friend who's made my life so much better and challenged me in so many ways, what I think about him is what he's done for the country. And listening to that earlier discussion he had about the primaries, Kennedy is almost unique. I mean, he is the conscience of progressive politics in this country, but he's the most consequential senator of the last, say, half century, because for him it's never political, it's never personal, it's just politics. So he and Ronald Reagan could have a huge fight about the tax cut, which you were for, Kennedy was against, one of the few who was against it. And yet they were friends, they knew each other, they respected each other. And when Reagan got the Congressional Gold Medal, Nancy Reagan asked that at the dinner the night before, one of the three speakers be Ted Kennedy. That's the kind of spirit that he brings to the political process.
You know, you and I have talked about this at dinner and so forth on the set. Not politically, but personally, I'm a closet Kennedy admirer. We were dying to get him on the program to interview because I just think the world of the guy, and I think he's been through a lot of bumps on the road in his life. But I've watched some amazing clips of him giving speeches on the stump, and I don't really know anybody that gives a better speech. You said the other thing is right. He's got a great sense of humor. He's not a sort of personal, prickly kind of guy. I mean, Americans admire this guy everywhere. I did. I was shocked when I saw the news this morning, and I was saddened by it.
Yeah. Well, he has a great inner strength, and he uses it to fight for causes. Now he's going to use it to fight for himself. But when he fights for himself, he's really fighting for something much bigger. He's fighting for the idea of the Democratic Party that he stands for. I think the reason he endorsed Barack Obama is because Obama so much reminds him of his brothers and of a whole sense of a new generation of leadership and a new beginning.
When did you first meet him?
I first met him in 1972 when he campaigned for George McGovern. I first really got to know him when I was invited for a weekend at Hyannisport in 1975. I was very young, and he was pretty young, too. He took me sailing, and after that we decided that I would be a passenger on the boat. I would not be on the crew.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
I spoke to him about, I don't know, a week and a half ago.
What'd you talk about? What'd you talk about? What was on his mind? What was he thinking about? What's his most recent passion?
Well, I mean, he'd be deeply involved in these primaries, who's going to win, where it's going to go. He really believes the Democratic Party has to win this year. He thinks Obama does represent somebody who can reach across the aisle. He also, by the way, likes Hillary Clinton. This was not a decision against Hillary Clinton that he made. It was a decision for Barack Obama and for the idea that America wanted change and had the capacity to go to the future, which I think for him was rooted in his life experience, rooted in his memories of 1960 and 68. He didn't want, you know, he doesn't see America by looking toward the past. He sees America in a way by using those past experiences as a lens to look at the future.
Last one on this. We appreciate it. I know this is not your most favorite day in history. Mr. Kennedy was a liberal lion in the Senate. Liberal lion in the Senate. Now, what does his departure mean in the Senate, in your judgment?
Well, you know, Larry, I expect to see him back there on the Senate floor. Yeah. But I will tell you this. He is irreplaceable. Whether you like the legislation he passed or not, there's nothing over the last 30 years in terms of economic or social justice or progress that doesn't bear his imprint. He has literally touched the lives of every American and many people around the world, and I believe achieved more than many presidents have.
Bob Shrum, thank you ever so much. We look forward to getting you back on Kudlow and Company for the next round of elections, buddy. I appreciate it very, very much. Let me just ask my political guys on the panel. Keith Boykin, come to you. The Kennedy story is obviously a huge, huge story, and we're all praying for this guy. There's no question about it. And the volume of well-wishers for Mr. Kennedy is vastly, vastly greater than the people that don't wish him well. Does this Kennedy story kind of knock out, block out, or diminish today's primaries?
I don't think so. I think that, you know, the press and the public are capable of hearing both stories at the same time. And I was on MSNBC on Saturday when the news first broke with Pat Buchanan on the air with me. And we talked about it. Pat Buchanan admired Ted Kennedy, spoke at length about Ted Kennedy. And I think the American people understand that Ted Kennedy has contributed a lot to our country. I don't think it steps on the story of Barack Obama's victory tonight or on Hillary Clinton's victory tonight. I think that there are three separate stories, and I think the public can digest all of them.
Steve Board is, I hate to say it, but the departure of Senator Kennedy, but if that were to come to pass, I mean, I hope he fights this thing. They're talking about radio.